Hi there everyone, it's Mindy from My Creative Scoop and I'm back with another tutorial for scrapbookpal.com. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to do some Copic coloring. We're going to be using this brand new unicorn picnic stamp set, and we're also using the new maze die. So let's get started. Okay, so my card is cut at 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. That way it stands upright just like that. And then I'm going to take my Hello Sunshine paper pack from Lawn Fawn, and we're going to go ahead and cut a piece of the rainbow and a piece of the white with the little tiny rainbows with polka dots for the card front. Okay, so my rainbow piece is cut at 5 1/4 by 4, so that way I have a nice thick white border going around it. And then I'm taking the white piece with the little tiny rainbows on it. It's going to be cut at 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So that way we have a nice rainbow border, and we're going to be able to see this nice rainbow pattern underneath our die. So we're going to be using the slide on over maze die, and we're going to go ahead and cut it out right here on top of this white piece of paper with the little rainbows on it. Okay, so here's how it looks once it's all cut out. And now we need to get out our images and stamp those, so that way we can start figuring out how we're going to put all of our little critters on there, and we are going to make them movable so that way it can be an interactive card. Okay, so here are all of the images that we're going to be placing on our card. I'm going to be using some Copic markers to color my images. I've stamped my images onto my Copic Express It blending card using black Memento ink, and we're going to be using C00, C2, and C4. And I'm going to be sharing with you how to color a white area. You just have to add a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to show you how to color one of the clouds and one of the unicorns. We're going to start by using C2. We don't want to add too much of a shadow at first, so I always like to start with a middle color anytime I'm coloring white. So we're going to start with this C2, and we're going to color this cloud right here. I'm going to come right underneath it, and we're going to give it a little bit of a shadow, so I'm just going to trace right along the bottom. And it's going to kind of taper up on each of the sides, so it narrows off. And then we're going to add a little bit of a shadow right where it dips down on each of these little corners. And then we're going to take the C00 and we're going to just bring that out a little bit farther just to increase that shadow. So we're going to take the C00, I'm going to come right along the side of that C2, and we're kind of erasing or blurring out that line right in between the white of the cardstock and the gray of the Copic ink. So I went along the side of it, and then I'm going to come back and do a heavy flick, because when I lay my marker down, it's going to be its darkest point, but as I flick it going out, it's really smoothing that edge right in between, like I said, the white cardstock and the ink, giving you a much smoother look, so that way it just looks like it has a hint of a shadow. So I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to come out a little bit farther, but then you're going to dip it inwards a little bit, just pulling that little corner in. Same thing over here. I'm coming out a little bit along the sides, and then I'm going to come in just to intensify that little crease. And we'll add a little bit more over here. And then we're going to do the same thing over on this side. So now we're going to repeat that, but we're going to add a little bit more of a shadow with the C4 first. So I'm going to take the C4, and this really makes a difference. It really helps make the shadow pop, but it is really dark, and it's very easy to go from light and shadow to a completely gray cloud. So you don't want to do that when you want something to appear white and we're just shadowing it. So you're going to take the C4 and just think of it as outlining the outline of the stamp. So I'm just going to trace right where we added that C2 the first time, and it just kind of intensifies that shadow, and you don't have to really worry about adding so much color, but it does make a huge difference when you do add it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to trace right in the areas where we added that little bit of C2. So a little bit of color goes a long way here. And now we're gonna add the C2 just to kind of blur out that C4. So again, I'm going right along the side of that C4. And again, in each of these little corners. And we're gonna blur it out even more with that C00. So again, I'm gonna take my marker and flick it going out so that way I'm pulling some of those previous darker colors and blending it out into the white cardstock. So we kind of are erasing that harsh line between the two. And we're gonna do the same thing here and here and there. So there we have it. We have a nice shadowed cloud, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish coloring the rest of the clouds. Okay, so all my clouds are finished. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you where the shadows go onto this unicorn. So again, we're gonna start with that C2. We're gonna add a little bit of a shadow underneath the hair. Because the hair would be casting a shadow onto the unicorn's body. And then we're also gonna add a shadow all underneath. So along the bottom of the legs, in between this leg, and then on the bottom of the body, a little bit underneath the head because the head would be casting a shadow onto the chest, and coming up the side of the body just a little bit, but it kind of tapers off. So then we're gonna take that C00 and we're gonna blend that out. So I'm just gonna do a heavy flick just to kind of push away some of that C2, just to blur out and make it so it's not such a harsh of a line in between the white of the cardstock, because the important thing is when you're coloring something white is you want to make sure you're leaving a white space. So we don't want to fill in everything. We just want to give the edges where the shadows make sense the most a little bit of a shadow. And then we're going to come in and make it a little bit darker using the C4. So just like we did with the clouds, we're just going to trace the outline of the image in that area where it needs to be shadowed. So I'm just going to trace right where the hair is. And right there, and along the bottom of the body. You don't want to go in as much, or you don't want to come out as much as you did with that C2. We're just giving it a little bit of a shadow. Kind of makes it pop. So a little color goes a long way. And not only that, but we're going to be pulling it out with the C2. So then we're going to take the C2, come right along the side of that C4, and just make the line a little bit thicker. Might have to go over it a couple of times if you didn't get a good, if you weren't able to pick up enough ink to kind of move it out a little bit farther to blend it. See, I'm pulling it and dragging it up. That's why we didn't need to go up that high, because when we use the lighter color, we're dragging up some of that previous darker color, which is the C4. So now we're going to take that C00 and give a nice flick so that way we blend it into the white of the cardstock. All right, and now we are ready to color the hair. So for the hair, we're going to be using the same color scheme as we have inside this rainbow paper. So we have pink, which I'm not going to be using red because I think red would be too overpowering. So we're going to be using a darker pink, which is R32, to kind of give it that darker peach color. And then we're going to be using some YR12 for the orange. And then we're going to be using a little bit of the YO2. And for those two teal colors, we're going to be using BG13 and BG11. We're going to start with that or no, we're going to start with the R32 right along the top. And let's continue it coming down on this side. And then we're going to take that YR12, come right along the side of that R32. Just kind of ignore the lines that are there, because we want it to just be a rainbow color, just like how the paper is. And then we're going to take the Y02 and we need to go back and grab that R32. I need to continue that line. And you know what, let's just go ahead and do this part too. So let's go back with YR12. And notice all I'm doing is just kind of laying the ink down to the paper just a little bit. You don't have to go over it and over it and over it. The more you go over it, the darker it's going to be. But the longer you leave your marker on the paper, the more ink that's going to just flow out of it. So you want to be kind of swift when you're doing this, so that way you don't oversaturate your paper. So I'm going to come down along the side of the YR12 down here and here. And then we're going to take the BG11, come right along the side of that Y02, and then we're going to take the BG13, and then we're going to repeat that just so the colors mix a little bit better. So we're going to take that R32, come right along the side, and the same thing for here and over here. And we're also going to add a little bit of pink in the center of the ear. And we will be needing the R30 just to blend it out so it's not so dark. And then we're going to take that YR12 again, come right along the side of that R32. Oh, we need to continue. And then the Y02. And then with that BG11, and then we're going to touch up the edge of that BG11 with the BG13. Then let's go ahead and go back and shadow the unicorn's horn with the grays. So let's take that C4 and I'm just going to come up the inner part and then right along the bottom, and then we'll come up a little bit on each of those little twists that are on the unicorn's horn, and then we're going to come out a little bit more with C2. And then just kind of blur out that little edge with C00. All right, so our little unicorn is all finished in just half a second. I'm gonna take my C00 again, just blend up from this dark shadow right around the ears, just to give the bottom part of the ears a little bit of a shadow. All right, and you know what? Let's go ahead and give them some rosy cheeks. So let's take the R32 and we're gonna add just a little dot, and then we're gonna go back with R30 just to make that dot a little bit bigger. And then we'll take that C00, go directly over it and just give it a little bit of a shadow so it blends into the white part of the unicorn's body. I'm going to go ahead and color the rest of the unicorns and all of our little accessories so we can get our card all put together. Okay, so here are all of our finished colored images and they are ready to be die cut out. Okay, so all of our images are colored and die cut from the unicorn picnic using the coordinating dies and are ready to be placed on our card. Alright, so I've added some foam tape on the back of my rainbow paper, which is going to go onto my card base, so that way it has a little bit more height and dimension. I'm just going to place this right here in the center. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take a penny and we're going to place it right behind where we want each of the little animals that we want to move, and we're going to place it right in the middle there, and you want to make sure that it's not coming over you, because we want to make sure that we could put a foam dot on the back of this white rainbow pattern paper. So we're going to take a foam tape or a foam dot. You're probably going to have to cut it a little bit, and then we're going to place it right on the penny. As you can see, it's in between each of these pieces of paper. It's not going to move. And we're going to remove that adhesive piece, and we're going to place the image that we want to move right on top. Okay, so I've attached all of my little critters that I want to move and the little cloud onto the penny, and now we can go ahead and flip this over, and we want to make sure that we add some foam tape everywhere on the back of this card except for right around where we want the penny to go. So we're going to go ahead and add the foam tape. So here are all of the areas that I'm adding my foam tape to, and now I'm going to remove it and place it onto the center of the rainbow card. Alright, so here are all the pieces that move. So this one's just going to go straight just like that. This one's going to go up and down. This one is going to come over and down just a little, because I'm going to stick a little something right there. And now it's time to add the rest of our images on there. Okay, so here is our card. This little cloud here moves down right behind the ice cream scoops. This one right here moves up so they could share the ice cream scoops. And then this one kind of goes right along the cloud to the piece of cake. And then this little cloud with the little fairy on it can slide all the way down past that other cloud. So now we are ready to add our sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Happy Birthday, Have an Uplifting Day from the Really High Five stamp set from Lawn Fawn. Okay, so here is our finished card. We have all these cute little pieces that move and interacts. Move this one over here, and this one goes up and down, and so does this one. And then when you open up the card, it says have an uplifting day. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.